Good morning.
Good morning. There's one public speaker this morning, Mr. Art Nudell. Mr. Nudell?
Good morning. My name is Art Nudell. For 30 years, I was a budget analyst for the city. For 20 of those years, I used the escalator at the Borough Hall station. For the other 10 years, it was out of order. One year, a replacement escalator was stolen intact from a locked shed. Congratulations on pulling the West Side Yards out of the trash heap. Now let's cement the deal while saving $8 billion. First, $2 billion could be saved by extending Long Island Railroad service to the West Side Yards. Building a station there would take little time and cost nothing compared to the number 7 line extension. The developer would be assured of regular train service to the country's busiest station. Second, $2 billion in 3 years could be saved by the upper-level loop alternative to the East Side access, which would bring Long Island Railroad trains into Grand Central on existing tracks, rather than digging a 150-foot deep terminal of questionable safety served by 17 high-speed escalators. With a huge capital budget gap, the potential savings suggest that the fresh eyes of a disinterested third party should look at this plan and invite Delcan, the engineers, to make a presentation. In 3 years, half the tracks at the yards would be unnecessary, and developers could build a $1 billion, not a $2 billion platform. If all trains, however, were either through running from Long Island to New Jersey or reversed at Penn Station to yards in Queens, there would be no yards and no platform necessary. This savings would make possible affordable housing, additional affordable housing, a priority of Community Board number 4. In 3 years, 100,000 daily Long Island Railroad and Metro North riders could get to Grand Central and Penn Station respectively, saving 40 minutes a day of non-productive time, the equivalent of 1 month a year. At $40 an hour, including benefits, that's $2 billion in productivity savings for riders and business. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I seek approval, a motion for the approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
Motion made.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. The work plan, there is no action required. However, if there are any questions? Did you find any mistakes, Andrew, on the minutes, the work plan? Okay. Andrew found an amazing spelling error yesterday. Ronnie will provide a brief update on the projects. She's welcome to entertain any questions. But wait, before you do that, I wanted to just make a personal note to thank Ronnie. Ronnie stepped into Mysore shoes.
Thank you.
Although women love to buy new shoes, I don't think that's pair you really wanted.
Right. Wasn't what I was going for.
No, it's not what an attorney asked for.
Thank you.
But
I appreciate
you did
that.
it nonetheless, and
Thanks
we
for your
appreciate
support.
it. I know how hard you've been working, and it's one thing to work hard, but it's another thing to be effective, and you've been quite effective during this seamless transition.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carry on.
Thank you. In terms of the South Ferry project, as you'll recall, last month I showed some photographs of the work underway. The structural box is nearly complete, and we're on target for going into revenue service by the end of the year, which will be the first Lower Manhattan project that goes into customer service, complete customer service. So we're working all quite hard towards that. We have also noted that we're finalizing some agreements with the City DOT and the Parks Department for what the appearance of the Peter Minuet Plaza will be in front of the ferry terminal, which is also an area where we have some new station entrances that will be opening.
And I think in the pre-meeting, Bill Wheeler mentioned that he had just been there the other day, and what were your observations?
It's really extraordinary to see it, and it's really attaining a state of finish really fast. And the entrances are being worked on now, and so it's going to be extraordinary when it's done. The park is almost completely restored. It's quite amazing.
Thank you.
Ronnie, is the when you say in revenue service in December, does that include the transfer to Whitehall? Will that be in revenue service as well?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Moving on to the Fulton Street Transit Center project, the Day Street Concourse, which is the underground concourse that will go between Church and Broadway, that structure is nearly complete, and we're working with the Port Authority on some interface issues, and it is also something that if anybody has an interest in coming down to see, I'd welcome the opportunity to show you. It's quite a neat marvel to see a new concourse area being built, and we've broken through to where the 4-5 is, so you really get the feel of what our passengers will be, the benefit that our passengers will have there. In terms of the work itself, the Day Street contractor, Skanska, is in the process of getting the perimeter work between Broadway and Fulton underway to create that new bathtub that we need to get done. And I'm pleased that we're going to be proceeding with advertising the next step, which is the foundation and underpinning contract for the transit center. So work is proceeding apace. And again, an open invitation in terms of coming
You should come
downtown.
down and see it. We were down there last week. It's really amazing.
You may recall from the pictures last month that the initial construction for the number 7 is underway. That work is continuing quite well, and we're in the process now, in addition to some utility work, of building a shaft where we'll eventually get our tunnel boring machines 2 shafts. Use your mic.
Yeah, actually 2 shafts, one at what we call Site P between 34th and 35th Street, and that'll be the access for the mining of the cavern for the 34th Street station, and then at Site A down at 26th Street, and that'll be the launch pit for the TBM. And the TBMs are on order. They will be delivered probably February or March of next year, both machines, brand new machines from Germany, Herring Connect machines. So that's well underway in terms of the manufacture of those machines and the linings that will also be associated with those. So the work is really going well. It's well-organized sites. Thank God we're off the street. It's far less complicated in that manner than 2nd Avenue, where you have to be in the middle of the street. There's no utility work, and so the mining is going very well. And that's another side. It's a long walk, but it's a great thing to see because it really is underway. It's going very well.
Thank you, Joe.
Are these machines ones that sort of self-destruct when they get to the end of the tunnel? No, actually we'll have to pull them out. We're hoping to, if we can find a way to work with Related at Site L, which is up on 41st Street, we can take the machines out there hopefully. Otherwise we have to bring them back through the original launch pit. So that would save some time if we can take them out further near Times Square, which is their final destination anyway. We'll put a square head on them and do that.
Joe mentioned 2nd Avenue, so in the absence of further discussion, I'll move on to 2nd Avenue. There we have work underway between 96th Street and 92nd Street, which is the area where the launch box for that tunnel boring machine will be constructed. We're currently in the utility relocation phase. The work on the west side of the street on 2nd Avenue in that neighborhood has been completed, and we're working on the east side of the street. It is crowded there, and we're working with the community to try to minimize the construction impacts to the businesses and the residences there. The best way we can do that is to get under decking, because the major part of that excavation will be performed under decking, and so everything is full court press to get through those impacts to the community. It is nice. I mean, it is nice. And we also have an icon for it on our website as well to really encourage people who are interested in the project to remind them that that campaign is underway.
Last we heard that the 96th Street station had about 8 or 9 prospective bidders. Do you think that...
It looks like the competition is good. I'm cautiously optimistic about that.
That's refreshing. That's very refreshing.
Yes.
At what point do you think you'll have the bids and report back to us?
The proposals are coming in at the end of June, so I may have some better information when we meet next month.
What's the budget for that alone?
Just for the station, I'll have to look at that and get back to you.
Somebody should have it. Tony, do you have that answer?
I'll be happy to provide that information for you, sir.
But it's something that you would think you can get 8 or 9 or something like that interested in. It's not one of those killer numbers.
It's not one of those killer numbers, right? In terms of East Side Access, the work in Queens and Manhattan is proceeding. I was noting earlier this morning that the lead tunnel boring machine is approaching the area of Grand Central now, so it's quite exciting there. And we're working with a coordinated team, which is the Judlow Dragados team, who will be performing the tunneling into Manhattan. They're doing that now, as well as the cavern work to excavate that large cavern that we need for the new station area. So that's going very well. In Queens, we're underway, and we have a procurement underway for the soft ground tunneling that will be in the Sunnyside Yard, Harold interlocking area. Right now, we had noted in the book that we're doing some switch work in Sunnyside Yard, and what that does is give Long Island Railroad and Amtrak the operating flexibility so that they can operate while we're working in their right-of-way, which is a key element of coordination for us. That concludes my project report.
Are there any questions? We have lots of time if anybody wants to. Okay. There is only one procurement this month, and it's a competitive procurement.
There's a proposed modification in the package to the Judlow Dragados contract on East Side Access in the amount of $475,000, which accommodated some acceleration costs that they'll be incurring to catch up for some of the slower than anticipated blasting that's underway there.
I seek a motion and a second. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor? Aye, so moved.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you again, Ronnie. And there might be a new Ronnie next month.
If not, the old Ronnie will be here.
Okay. And the older Nancy. And now we're going to start the real estate portion of the meeting. I know that there were 8 items for us to vote on this month, and there's one in particular I'd like Rocco to describe.
Yeah, we have, for your information, this month we have 8 action items. The item on page 11, 1G, is of interest. I'd just like to bring it to your attention. From time to time, the MTA agencies are approached by private developers and governmental agencies, and primarily they wish to install some sort of security devices, whether it's planters or bollards and so on. And occasionally these devices intrude into our space. So, and these are primarily non-valued interactions. So rather than burden the committee and the board with an action item requesting permission to enter into these agreements, we are looking to have the department being able to enter into these agreements, provided that the specific agency that is being impacted approves the work that is being proposed, provided that the agreement itself contains a 60-day termination provision, such that if the agency requires the facility or that imposition removed, it can be done, that the agency is appropriately indemnified in case there is an issue of some sort that develops as a result of that installation, and lastly, that the legal department of the MTA approves the actual agreement. So those protections will be in place, and we are asking the board to authorize us to be able to enter into those agreements without an actual staff summary to burden your time and your efforts in that regard.
Yeah, I think that makes complete sense. Do you all agree with that? Yes.
You're not going to mention all the papers, you're saying.
That's correct.
We like that.
And if you have any questions pertaining to the other 8 items, 7 items, we can certainly respond to them.
I have one question.
In the Long Island Railroad item under the viaduct, is it
The first one?
the one in Valley Stream?
Yes.
Is it railroad property because there are supports for the viaduct on the land, and that's how it's railroad property, or is any property under a viaduct considered railroad property?
Typically, in situations of this sort, the viaduct is supported by the structures below, and these facilities are typically under the viaducts, and the right-of-way itself is part of the location that we are talking about. So the structures under the right-of-way are railroad controlled, as opposed to private entity controlled throughout the island. And in many instances, we have Yes, yes, but on the island, it's much more prevalent. And in many instances, we have private operators that similarly control, but in all of these interactions, we similarly have that 60-day provision that should the railroad require the facility for any purpose, we can recapture the space.
Okay. I seek a motion on these 8 items.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, so moved. Thank you.
We also have a number of information items.
Yes.
If any commissioner has a question, we could certainly respond to those.
Is there anything outstanding that you should discuss?
No, these are general, just updates on existing projects and such. One interesting item that I could bring to your attention is the agreements entered into directly by the department, which was a policy implemented some time ago, and you'll note that there are a number of agreements that we've entered into since the last presentation to the committee and the board, and those are on page 16. You'll note that there is a slew of agreements that the department has entered into without the exposure of the staff summary, and this results in significant time savings and financial benefit to the authority.
Okay, thank you for bringing that to our attention. So there's no need for a vote on those. Then if there's no further questions, I seek to adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion made.
And second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.